Hi everybody, this short video is about the dedicated X-axis drive for the WARCO WM18 mill. WARCO, or Warren Machine Tools Company here in the UK, sells a lot of the Chinese built mills, and this is just one of them. The reason I'm making this video, it wasn't particularly difficult to fit, but it is billed on the website as specifically for the WM18. So before we go any further, let me just establish this is a WM18 mill. Now this particular one is a 2008 model. There's no suffixes, no letters, whatever. I decided to buy the dedicated one because I think one can't be really sure that the others that are sold on eBay that look very, very similar to the unit down here, this one here, you might end up with the wrong gears, or it might not fit the shaft, or whatever. It was worth an extra £40 or so to try and get something that was perhaps a better fit. Now the first thing I will say is that when I phoned WARCO, they were quite clear. I actually phoned them and said it doesn't fit, or more to the point, it won't fit without modification. He then told me that my mill was too old, and that this was for the newer WM18, but the website doesn't say that. So let's just be clear about what it is I've bought. This is their product number, 003205.18, description, powered feed for WM18 mill, and then there is a code there. Okay, now let's be clear. First thing that you notice when you start to get the items out of the box, it's all well packaged, is that you end up with, or rather you start with, you have an additional bearing block here. This block is to support the end of the shaft after taking off the hand wheel. Well, that was the first thing I noticed. The dowels are not present. There are no holes for the dowels in that block, and similarly, or none that correspond with the dowels in my table, and similarly none of the bolt holes are spaced to fit any of the bolt holes where the old block would come off. So the first thing I decided was I needed to keep the old block. Now, I then spoke to WARCO, and they said, yeah, you've got one of the old mills. So I said, okay, I'm going to have to make modifications. They seemed quite comfortable with that. I'm not going to show you all the machining because I don't think you need to really know that. It's really about what I did and what the outcome was. So let's be clear about what we actually did. This bracket is in two parts. This part here, separate from this part here. This part has to fit, has to straddle this block from above in that fashion. It can't do that on the original block. So I had to mill out the sides of this to actually fit the original block. That wasn't difficult, it worked well enough, and it allowed me to more accurately locate this bracket. An additional thing I did was once I had the bracket in the final position, I also then fitted additional screws. I think someone else on YouTube has also said the same. Good idea, makes it a much better fitting because the clamp screws go in from here, and I substituted the hexagon head ones for grub screws. So that's fine. What was next? The second part of the bracket, the bigger part with the label on. Because of the thickness of the original block, in other words this part, it protrudes from the face of this one, and therefore interferes with this one here. So you have to make a rebate in this one to accommodate the original block. Now bear in mind, the original block's on there, it's on the dowels, it's in the right place, the bearing's correct, and so on and so forth. That was the main thing that needed altering, which is not difficult, but to be fair, it does say it's for the WM18 mill. This is a WM18 mill, and nowhere on the website from WARCO does it say only fits models from year X, because I don't know what year they modified the table and the blocks. That was the main thing. Fitting the ancillary equipment was, to be honest with you, pretty simple. There's the new switch, the limit switch. I've only left the cover off so you can see what it is. The original cover is pretty useless, about as much use as a handbrake on a canoe. So what I've actually made is I've made a roll top cover, anti-splash cover, which actually fixes to the back of that plate. I've got extended bolts in the top of that switch, but other than that, that works perfectly well. The buffer at either end, or the stops, for my own personal reasons, I also changed these to countersinks from the original hexagons. I felt it was just better. That was only my choice, but you don't have to do that. So let's get back to this unit here. Providing you make the alterations to the two grey brackets, as I've suggested, and it's pretty straightforward, then it will fit. What I did with the supplier, WARCO in this case, was I did say, will this destroy my warranty? And they were fairly clear that so long as I didn't interrupt anything inside this box, as long as I didn't tamper with, dismantle that part, then they didn't really have a problem with it. Other than that, it works pretty well. It's not a bad unit at all. Would I buy another one? Yeah, I reckon I would. You've got an infinitely variable control on the centre here, got a power switch, and obviously your directional control here. So it is actually switched on at the moment. And if I sweep round to the you can get nice slow control, very slow if you require it. It's powerful and it does the job. Equally, you can go at a much faster rate. I shan't bother turning it right up. Let me come zoom back a bit, and right there, that little orange blip is your rapid button. Or rapid switch as they call it. But yep, it's a good unit. I just think, like a lot of these dedicated things, they're not quite as dedicated as you really think. Or, you know, if they are made for a newer model, they should say so. So to be honest folks, if your WARCO mill, your WM18 mill, and bearing in mind they have two power feeds on their website, which outwardly look the same. One's green and one's the beige colour that this one is. And they introduce this as being for the WM18. Worth asking a few questions. Is yours the old model or the new model? Because I didn't know how to tell the difference. Is it worth the money? It's pretty good. I do now wonder if I could have got a cheaper model, just safe in the knowledge that I would have had to alter the brackets. But of course there is a risk that the gears would have been wrong, or some other factor wouldn't have actually allowed me to use it at all without a huge amount of modification. So that's where we are. And that's the end of the job, I think. Thanks folks. Happy milling.